So what's ahead? What are the next sort of key growth issues for Engineer? What do you see in your niche?
Sure. Well, I mean, we're seeing, I think, three major trends that we're benefiting from. The first is the excitement around cloud. The idea that with just a couple of API calls, you can create an entire infrastructure, clone an entire infrastructure, perfectly reproduce an existing application environment. That's incredibly attractive to people. And that's why people, we've had very, very rapid growth in our public cloud service with Engineered Solo, which is our first plan for Engineered customers. The second thing that I think is happening is that the technology stack is getting significantly more complex and almost more fractal over time. When you look at, for example, the number of different types of key value stores that just in the last 9 months have become popular and become a topic of both experimentation and deployment for a lot of customers like Tokyo Cabinet, CatchDB, Redis, and more. We see people are trying to figure out how to get around the restrictions of a relational database. I think the trend towards MySQL sharding and relational sharding over the past couple of years has sort of left a little bit of a bad taste in people's mouths, that it's still too hard to manage a sharded infrastructure. So I think there's a lot of excitement over what can we do with a simple DB or a Redis or a Tokyo Cabinet that is going to make certain types of stores more scalable. I think there's also kind of a search for data sets that have a graph structure like social networks. What's the optimal data infrastructure for that? That's one of the things that's becoming more interesting to people. And I think how do you manage that? How do you deploy that? How do you effectively automate that for scaling is one of the issues that's kind of a to be done right now. So we're actually excited about a lot of the technology stack evolution and also some of the incredible innovation that's happening in Rails. Rails 3 is going to be a really significant step forward for the Rails community because Rails is sort of turning into a mature platform where there's a clear distinction between private APIs and public APIs, and plugin providers are going to be able to rely on having a very stable Rails 3, stable in the sense of API stable, not stable in the sense of it doesn't break, for a time to come. And you also see that Ruby is growing up as well. I think that the sort of core technology evolution is very exciting to us. I think the third thing that's happening, and I think that ties all the three together, is the increasing adoption of sort of agile development methodologies and the sophistication of the tool chain that's growing up around agile development. So I think when XP was first introduced back in the late 90s, you didn't really have a lot of support for pair programming in your IDEs. You didn't have a lot of support for continuous integration servers, and now you have both cruise control and integrity for continuous integration. You also had kind of clunky integration with source code control systems, and today that's all merging because basically we call it agile deployment at Engineer, which is now that the trend is basically, not the trend really, the default now for all web development teams is iterative development. You're rapidly creating new feature sets, but now not just developing them, but also pushing them out to production, to staging, as it happens. And one of the things we're able to do now with the toolchain maturation and integration that we've seen in the Rails space is as you check in new source code, you're able to actually automatically deploy that to a staging server. So it's completely automated, which is an amazing leap from where software development was in the 90s. It's an incredible evolution, and it basically means that you've got a very rapidly developed site that iteratively gets deployed into production and almost organically grows its architecture, deployment after deployment, rather than having this huge wall that development teams meet when they've actually quote unquote finished the product, where it's like, okay, now it all works on a laptop, now let's see whether we can make this serve 200,000 concurrent visitors. The day of that deployment methodology and that operations methodology, they're gone. And I think best practice in the leading large-scale web companies, like a Yahoo or an eBay or Google or an Amazon, is that's already passé. You're already doing very rapid, iterative development and deployment, and the engineering team is as responsible for the performance in deployment as they are for functional correctness, and that's a real change. That's a change on the order of the change from waterfall development to agile development in the 90s and early 2000s. So cloud and the new generation of frameworks and what that's able to do, and then the maturation of sort of operations and development methodologies, they all kind of mesh together in our mind. And Engine Yard is our job is to make that happen, to provide the operations and automation tools and technologies to enable developers really to create scalable, well-performing, well-managed sites cost-effectively, whatever infrastructure they choose to run it on.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Great, thank you.